Right, just a collection of bits that actually should have been done, or should have been out about at least a fortnight ago. But I don't know if I had a bit of a reaction with the stuff they're giving me. I missed a couple of steps at work, bringing some racing sumps down some stairs. Job I do. Fell over, clonked both my wrists, just about getting the feeling back in them. So decided to have a week off, and we buggered off down to Wales, which was quite nice. So now I am trying to get up to speed and show you everything, and the footage that comes now is at least a fortnight old, and I'm trying to get it done this morning because we've got superbikes on the telly in Italy, and we've got the 24-hour Le Mans, which is going to kick off in about 3 hours, I think. So I'm trying now. Oh, and my PC blew up. You know, you can't write it really sometimes, can you? Yeah, so took that into the shop. The CPU decided to bail out on me there, so I've had nothing to do video on as well. So besides everything else, I thought, right, we'll have a rest, and we'll try and get back up to speed now. So hopefully, I don't know how long the next video is going to be. I'll try and make it short. There will be going back to this is what we're doing now thing, but anyway, that's my reason for it, and I'm sticking to it. Morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Right, next bit. Ancillary bits, more bits. Got to run a reamer through this shaft still. The material I had for the drawbar, I ended up taking in work for the boss to do on a job, because he wanted to make something out of it, and I said, I've got some. I'll get you a piece back. Aye, alright. So this bit should slide in there for a drawbar. So I'm going to put the reamer back through it just to make sure, maybe polish that down. That's one job to do. I say there's some other spacers and things I'm going to make off camera, because the spacers, we all know what they look like. Other things to do are some spacers for the wheels that they give you. You get 4 wheels, and obviously that's a massive hole. So you make your spacers to fit either side without crushing this, I'm assuming. There is a bit of a sketch on one of the drawings, and it goes on about the diameter, and you have 2 spacers go either side. Your mandrel fits inside. I'm not too sure yet if there's something sits inside there or not, but we'll figure that one out when we have a look at it. You get these paper spacers as well that go on. Like I say, the kit, you get four different wheels. They do give you a mandrel drawing to do, but it does actually say make yourself a lifetime supply while you're at it. I mean, God knows how long a lifetime supply will be. But what I'm going to do is make about 6. So I'm going to, later on, I'm going to cut the piece of material up, get it all ready, and get my stop in the lathe that I've got somewhere. I'll have to dig it all out. And then, because the angle's 40 degrees, that's supposed to match this. So to try and match it, I'm going to hold this in my soft jaws, make sure I've got it running true, or as true as, well, it's got to be true. It's got to be as true as I can get it with the most accurate clock I can find, and then move my compound round, and make sure with the DTI that I've got this set hopefully to exactly the same angle. and then I can make these small mandrels that go through the wheels. Obviously go through the wheels, so when the spindle's on, and you can have your mandrels set up on your wheels, and if you ever want to change your wheels, then you just undo it. No need to set the mandrel off, just put one back on. Should be running true. Like I say, uncharted territory with all of this, so we're finding out. There are a few other little jobs as we go along. There's loads of little jobs as we go along. I would like to try and get this finished sometime this year, hopefully, so we'll try. So anyway, I'll crack on. It's yeah, the door's shut today. Obviously it's oh dear, the weather's gone a bit as it egg. It's rained for the first time in about 6 weeks, so everyone's like, oh no. But yes, little jobs, he says. They're all little jobs. They all need doing to make the big job come together. So I'm going to get on with some, let's say, some little ancillary bits. It's like you've got some washers here, and it does give you different sizes. So they're different sizes for different wheels. So I'm going to knock them up for the wheels I've got on the instructions. Because, for example, it gives you a dimension. There's a big dimension on one of the washers there, and it says paper washer OD -1/8, which is 3mm, which I'm not too sure what it means by that. I think it's the width of what the wheel is. Taking, like I say, you've got to hold that wheel, but obviously you've got to not crush it, otherwise you'll crack it. So we'll figure that out as we go along. Can't think of anything else for the time being, but see how it all pans out. Right, one of the bits asked to make is a mandrel, or it says, while you're there, make a lifetime. It depends how long your lifetime is. So it says about 8 mandrels. So these are the grinding wheels you get with it. Different diameters. These are just 4. You can buy your own. You get some paper washers for them. You get a kind of description about making an insert. That's actually got an insert in it. And then these washers that go either side, depending on your grinding wheel. Sorry, let's get my hands in there. Yeah, messing with rose bushes this morning because it's a bit windy and the rose bushes are winning all the time. But at least we've saved a rose bush from going over. Now, it says make these mandrels, and the size is depending on what bore. Now, I think it's probably a better idea if this diameter here is all the same, and then you do, I mean, this might be how it is, I don't know. Then you do a nylon bush that fits in there that's the same diameter as them. That will then be the same diameter as either that or the nylon bush. I'm assuming the nylon bush probably, because it says you can Loctite this washer onto the back end of your cups. Then when you swap your cups over with your mandrel already on, you should get a consistency. I've watched a few things on some YouTube people. So anyway, what I did yesterday is I knocked one up, slightly bigger material than what they said, and I've set this as accurate as what I can, using the trigonometry method and your clock. I mean, it's lucky I've got a DRO. I've been looking into it, and there's a lot into it, and I vaguely remember the old sine bar method, but anyway, I got it spot on 20 degrees for when, if you remember, when I made this. Now, I've blued that up. I've had to rub that down to suit the 8 bore that's in there. Now, this is like one I've made earlier, Blue Peter job, and that fits on there. Now, if I spin this ever so slowly when I turn it on, That to me is pretty damn good. Now when I pulled it off with the blue, I'm getting a consistent blue all the way around off there, so that's saying to me there's a pretty good match there. So I'm going to keep this set up now. I'm going to get my thickest wheel and add some, and then part these off so I've got extra material. Then while I've got all this set up, I'm going to make another 7 of these. It's got a very fine thread on the end here for the drawbar. The drawbar, I've knocked the drawbar up already and tapped it. So, and I've got a matching die. I'm going to do this bit. I mean, like I say, this is just turning with the angles. I'll now I know this works, I'll probably film the next one. So we'll see you somewhere down the line. Now that's all my diameters done. That one, got to run the die down it later on. I've forgotten the other one, so I'll do it on this one. That's then got to be lapped down to about 7.98. I think the other one, the last one was. And I'm just going to form the angle on here. Now I have kept the same setting on my compound, 0, and I have come up to the shoulder where the length for that was. I know I've got tool radius. If you want to add tool radius onto it, it will be alright. There's a little bit of leeway that way for the depth of that when it goes into the reamed hole, so it will be alright. I mean, the tool radius is about 0.4. You've got to compensate for it if you think about it, because you're not actually at a square corner, because you've got a tool radius. It might only be a minute one, but it does sometimes, depending on what you're doing, add up. Anyway, we'll get this formed, and then it's a matter of polishing it all up. Oh, and I have knocked my traverse out so I don't inadvertently go that way. Right, I've just completed number 8, that end, and like I say, that's a nice slide fit, and that to me is, you can get a little bit of rock in it, but hardly anything. As long as that angle's right, that's all we're really bothered about. It'll draw it in onto that. I mean, you don't want that too slack. I haven't done the thread. I've done them on some, and I think my die is a little bit slack, so I've made a couple more spare. But anyway, next thing we want to do is flick them all to length. I will either put them in some soft jaws, or I do have a C5 collet chuck somewhere that I've not used. It's another thing that's been sat in a box. I might drag it out, put it in, because I've got a stop with it. That might be handy, and we'll see what we can do. Well, I'm going to try my C5 collet chuck. So I've just undone. I think every now and again it's a good idea to take your chuck off to make sure it comes off, because the first lathe I had that was like this, there was a fault. So anyway, I've undone all of the couplers at the back and clunked it twice, and it's come loose, which I think's great. It's been on there for ages. So twice it's come loose. I've got my piece of wood here to brace it up again so I don't drop it and smash my fingers to pieces. We'll get this cleaned up and get the other one on, the C5 collet one, and get back to you. Right, collet chuck is on. We've tightened it down, cleaned everything off, tightened it down, and it is running within, well, I've got a tenth or two with that clock. Alright, it's not a 10th clock, but you can see the movement from a thou. And I would say that's a couple of tenths. I don't think I'm going to get it any more than that. It's probably made in China. I think I got it off a reputable modelling place, which means it will be half decent because they generally don't try to sell you crap. But that's looking alright. I'm trying to do some repeatability here anyway, so we're going to try it out. Right, so we've got, yeah, let's throw some light on it. Like I say, I'm going to try and get another light out here, pointing down here. Got the collet chuck on. Couple of tenths again. Well, I suppose that's not too bad. I mean, it doesn't look, it's supposed to be, I think, ground bar. It's 5/8 all the way along when I mic'd it anyway. So what I'm doing now, it's a test piece. Hang on. Right. This is what I've made so far. Obviously, if you remember, that fits in there. We blued that up. That seems to be running nice and true. That's just a nice slide fit. So this angle here, I've still got set up, and it says while you've got the angle set up, make yourself a test piece. So this is 5/8. I'm assuming it's silver steel. I found it in my box with silver steel, and going off the bike, it is parallel all the way along, because it says the OD is not important, but it should be turned parallel. If it's a piece of silver steel and it's ground, and I've got this is within a couple of tenths, we'll see what it's like when I pull it out. It might be right, I might have to put it between centres and turn it again, but we'll see. But I'm replicating this now again on the end there, and this will be a test piece for I do not know what. I'll probably knock another couple of these up, because there is something else that's a collet. Now it has a 5mm reamed hole in it. Now I've done this 5mm by a very fine thread. So what I'm going to do is ream a 4mm hole in it. I think it's for a test piece for another small piece. So I'll make another couple of these. I mean, it wants it up to about where my nail is. And then it says 3 saw cuts. I want to see someone try and get 3 saw cuts down there. That would be very interesting. Yeah, I think you'd have to be a genius to put 3 saw cuts in there. Actually, you'd have to be more than a genius. So we'll get to that bit. It's obviously a little collet for a test piece that goes in there for God knows what. But we'll make a blank and at some point try and make one. Anyway, that's going to be done on there now. That will then be a test piece. I'm then going to get a collet to hold on to this piece and a stop and flick all the others up. I'm going to make these a generic length. Reason being, at the moment they send you 4 cups, and that's the deepest one that they send, and you've got to make your plates that go on the end that gently clamp it. So if I make, they obviously fit through there, and then they have a plate on and it's drilled and tapped in the end. If I make them long enough to accommodate everything, then I can cut them down to whatever's. If I take that as about the thickest and add 5mm on, I will then have some of these if I ever get, I mean, they reckon you shouldn't be using anything bigger than a 4-inch wheel on it anyway. So if I take that as probably the thickest, I've got a few more to make, and I might just make them ever so slightly longer. They kind of fit in where your cup just goes on the end and it holds it on the paper without kind of squashing it. It tells you that they're to be made up depending on which wheel you use. So obviously you don't crush the wheel, but you hold it ever so gently when it's tightened up, and it tells you you can actually bond your backing one on. Obviously, I suppose once you've mounted your wheel, it should be running true. It tells you, first off, it tells you make some nylon spacers to put in here. They're supposed to be a press fit, and then the cup fits in the nylon spacer and hopefully self-centers itself. It's not going to center itself that much. You're going to have to dress these up. They're going to be out a little bit, but the idea is, if everything is done accurately enough, then once that mandrel is fitted onto there, the wheel is then dressed up. If it's all running good and true, you should be able to effectively take it out and replace with your other wheels with either no or very little dressing up. We'll see what happens when we get to that point. But anyway, first off, replicate that on the end of there. Now this is the mandrel, and this is with a better die that I had as well. The saying is buy shit, buy twice, and they're right. So I, to be honest, the price that I got this die for in the UK was about £4, so it's not so far off anywhere else in the world. You can work it out. And this was a branded die. Granted, it's a cheap side of the branded die side, I suppose, but it was off a reputable company, and it is far better than the. I dropped a bollock. I got one off eBay. I thought, oh, I need that. I think it was off eBay. Anyway, to be honest, it was crap. I've done a couple of these. I made a couple of extras, and it was cutting underside, way underside. It was cutting, oof, what, nearly 1/4 of a mil undersize, and I thought that's not right, and I tried opening it up and it just wouldn't have it. That is so much better. I put this in my die holder, nipped it up, and it cut fantastic. And oh, just be careful with that. I've centered this one. I've centered this just in case I do have to touch it up. That's the spindle again. So you can see that slides on, and if I spin it, and I don't mind spinning it fast, that to me is pretty damn good. It's just started piddling it down outside. Good job I'm in here. So now let's see what this is like when we bring it out. Well, it comes out. Let's see what it's like when we tighten it up and spin it. That's not bad. I'm quite pleased with that. I'll just polish that up and then I'll get on to ending all the other ones up. Right, so I'm going to flick all of these up now to the same length. So I've got a collar in. That's been turned down approximately to 5/16. As you can see, it is a tight fit, but that's how it's supposed to be. It's just under 8mm anyway. So I've got a stop in here, the adapter I got when I got these collets from wherever I got them from, and obviously you couple of lock nuts there, and there's a pin there, so as you can tell that sits in there. So as long as all my other dimensions are spot on, every time I put this thing back in I should always go to the same setting. So we'll get that put in there. Obviously I'll have to flick one up, undo it, take it out, get a size, put it in my DRO. A stop would do on your, like I say, if you haven't got a DRO. Right, I am going to clock that, just see what that's like. And that's actually moving about a thou. But I'm flicking them up to length. I'll take that all out and clean it up. No, I've got about a thou on that. Makes you wonder how good these things are. That's better. Yep, same as before, couple of cents. Right, so I'll get this flicked up, and the boss on the end for the thread. I'll have to go and check actually, and I shall get back to you in a moment. Right, now I've just zeroed my DRO. I'm going to take this out, measure it, and work out, because I've got to leave a diameter on there which is about 4.8, whatever it equates to in imperial, and then the diameter, you turn the boss, then you turn the diameter down then to correspond with the plastic sleeve you're going to put inside your wheels. Now I've looked, that's 13mm, I'm going to do that 10mm. So when I make my plastic sleeves, the diameter has got to be, these have got to be a slide fit on a bore of 10mm on all the sleeves I make for my cutters. Then they'll all be the same. There's no point in being oddball around. And then the plastic, obviously the plastic sleeve, it will be a different outside diameter depending on the bore of your stone that you're using, the wheel. And then it has two flanges either side that obviously hold it, and they will be the same bore as this, which will be 10mm, but the outsides will be big enough so that they hold against the, just touching the stone. So when you nip it up, it doesn't, you know, you don't want to crack your stone, but you've got your plastic spacer in there, then your two outer cups to hold it on. So anyway, flick this up, measure it all up and start making them. Right, now turn the boss on there. What I'm also doing for a bit of consistency with them all is, this is an old bearing with a 10mm ID. So as well as measuring them, make sure that's a good slide fit on there. That's my gauge, but I will be measuring them as well. So that length up to there is fixed, and this length I'll drill and tap them off camera. I'll just set a stop up and just drill and tap them all to a depth. I'll set a stop up on my bed with my well, I'm just trying to think what I'm going to do. Oh no, I know what I'll do. I have got a chuck in a tool holder, and I'll set it up and I'll just drill them all to depth. But I'll do that off camera, because like obviously these will have to be custom made to the wheels I've got. So at the moment I'm going to get them all to a point where I can, and they're all running concentric and hopefully true with each other, and all the same size. So the bosses, the plastic rings I make, they will all fit on there. It should all be the same size, so at least I've got a little bit of consistency. Right, so I've got another 9 to do now, with varying sizes or varying lengths along there, but they will all be done to that same depth. And like I say, I'm going to drill and tap them off camera at a later date. Right, now this was a bar end, and I've left it long for a reason. I wanted to know how rigid this machine was, just for sheer curiosity and what it was like with this chucking. I mean, we're holding on about 8mm there. We're turning it down to 10, and I've got 10.27, 10.26 to 25.5. So there is nearly about 1,000. Now that's probably just maybe the cutter pushing it off because of the length. Who knows? But I mean, it's close enough. It's close enough. I'll finish it off now. It's also a bit warm. +2. I've got +2 and 0. Yeah, no, +2. So it's pushed off a little bit. I'm assuming that's what it's done, it's pushed off. Just because of the length. But I can live with that for what it is. For cutting it dry, no centre in it and what have you. Right, I get it polished up. Get this to slide on. That's another one done. Right, this is me just finishing the last one off now. So that's it really. I've done, what was it, about 10. And next I'll get all them spacers and hopefully show you some more very soon. Ta-ta!